In this video, I'd like to talk about undue hesitation, as a lot of learners do not understand what it is and how the DSA examiner marks this on the driving test. In fact, a lot of driving test candidates fail the driving test because they are trying to avoid undue hesitation and make other serious mistakes instead. So what is undue hesitation? Well, undue hesitation is failure to proceed when it is clearly safe to do so while you're driving. And the most important thing is that undue hesitation usually occurs at junctions. If you are not making progress, as in driving too slowly, that is a different driving error, which is under the column marked failure to make progress. So, undue hesitation usually only occurs at junctions. So, how does the DSA driving examiner mark undue hesitation as far as a driving test candidate is concerned on the driving test? Well, the first thing is the examiner will look at what type of junction you are approaching. There are two types of junctions, as in whether it is an open junction or a closed junction. An open junction is basically where you can see as you approach the junction if it is safe to proceed or not. A typical example of an open junction is a mini roundabout. The other case is a closed junction. On a closed junction, it is usually not possible for the driver to be able to see what is approaching at the junction. So typical example would be a T-junction, especially if there are houses, or a T-junction on a hill. In this case, it is usually not possible for the driver to be able to assess the situation until he is almost at the junction, or he actually has to stop at the junction and then assess the situation. Okay, so let's deal with the first situation of approaching an open junction. What the examiner would be expecting of you as a test candidate is that once he's giving you the directions for the junction, he would be expecting you to look out for the junction. Once you spot the junction, then obviously you're going to need to approach at a safe speed. Now, as you're slowing down approaching the junction, you need to be scanning both the road ahead and the junction. So for example, if it was a roundabout, then you're looking in front of you to see what the cars in front of you are doing, and then at the same time you look to the right. So you got to keep scanning. Look in front, look to the right. Look in front, look to the right. As you get closer to the junction, on looking to the right, you should be able to see if there are cars approaching. If there is nothing approaching that junction, then the examiner would expect you not to stop at the junction, but to continue through the junction because it's safe for you to go. Now, if it was a crossroad or a T-junction and it is open, then the same thing applies. The examiner would expect you, as you're approaching, slow down enough for you to be able to observe. You can see nothing coming from the right, you can see nothing coming from the left. Therefore, using a suitable speed, the examiner will expect you to continue into the junction, even though it's a giveaway. As there are no cars coming, there is no point stopping. The key word there is give way. You give way to traffic if there is anything that you need to give way to. If there is nothing that you need to give way to, then the examiner would expect you to continue to proceed. And that is where it is key to make sure that you approach at the right speed and you look. Avoiding undue hesitation does take practice, and this is where your driving lessons come into play, or your private practice if you're doing it with a friend or family. You need to continue to practice at these kind of junctions over and over and over again until you are very confident that you can proceed when it is safe, especially when it comes to being able to spot a safe gap. Just because something is approaching doesn't mean that it is not safe to go. Sometimes there is a considerable gap between what is approaching, maybe on the right, for example, at a roundabout, and you being able to go. A lot of times, just because there's something coming doesn't mean you have to stop. And if you do stop when it could have been safe for you to go, then obviously that is undue hesitation. Remember, on the driving test, you are not a learner. You're trying to demonstrate to the examiner that you have enough experience and skills to be allowed to continue to gain experience on your own, thus being able to pass the driving test. So, what about undue hesitation when it comes to closed junctions? Now, this is where the problem actually comes for a lot of driving test candidates. Because of the fear of undue hesitation, these learners therefore do not approach the closed junctions at an appropriate speed, or they do not stop or try to rush the junctions. Basically, if you can't see, where are you going? You cannot proceed at a junction until you have got to the junction, assess the situation, make sure that it's safe for you to go, and then go. If it is not safe, either because there is not a safe gap or you can't see properly, then you need to deal with the situation appropriately. Do not be pressurized by cars behind you, or think about how long you've been at the junction. If it is not safe to proceed, you should not go. If you do go, then you are going to fail the driving test for being unsafe, either ineffective observations or being a danger. So, if you approach a junction and you can't see, then undue hesitation will not apply because the examiner does not expect you to be psychic. So, to summarize, undue hesitation normally occurs at open junctions where it is safe to proceed and the candidate has not been looking early, therefore has not spotted the safe gap. The other thing to be aware of is make sure you familiarize yourself with the rules of the highway code. A lot of driving test candidates fail when turning right from a major road to a minor road because they give way to the cars coming from the minor road. So make sure you can deal with this situation appropriately. And finally, the other effect of undue hesitation is a lot of learners do not take effective observations when it comes to a closed junction. If you cannot see until you get to the junction, then you need to stop at the junction, assess the situation, make sure you know how fast cars are coming before you enter the junction. You should not think about how long you've been at the junction, neither should you be pressurized by cars waiting behind you. Remember, if it is not safe, then you shouldn't be going. Finally, obviously, you need to make sure that you have had enough experience and practice for anything that would occur on the driving test. A lot of people take the driving test too early, and when they come to a situation which they're not 100% sure of, obviously they don't have enough experience or they have not encountered it at all, then they don't know what to do and therefore they will fail. So take your time, get enough preparation, and you will be fine. I wish you all the best with your driving test.